The Dharma, incomparably profound and exquisite, is rarely met with even in hundreds of thousands of millions of kalpas. We now can see it, accept and hold it. May we realize the true mind of the Tathagata. Good afternoon. This is the fourth day of our March session at Mountain Gate, and Roshi asked me to talk a little bit this afternoon, and didn't have a lot of notice, but I wanted to take some notes and talk about something that's really inspiring to me, and that is the Bodhisattva Vow. For those of you who aren't familiar with the term, Bodhisattva means a being who has put off their own full liberation from samsara, or the world of suffering, which sounds kind of intense for those of us not familiar with Buddhist terms. But basically, a bodhisattva is somebody who has dedicated all of their energies towards helping all beings come to awakening before they themselves release their final level of attachment and let go completely. So their final attachment is that of sort of sticking around to help all beings realize their true nature. And so bodhisattvas come in all kinds of forms. Mythologically, there are a lot of different stories about bodhisattvas, different types of bodhisattvas. If you read the sutras, there are bodhisattvas for everything that you could possibly imagine. Bodhisattva for the end of a blade of grass, bodhisattva for the dust mites in the zendo, bodhisattva for taking care of Boo the dog here at Mountain Gate. But the spirit of the bodhisattva, out of wanting to dedicate all of one's energies towards helping all beings come to awakening, is very inspiring and really at the heart of our practice. The Dalai Lama and Tibetan Buddhism in general really have some wonderful expressions of what it means to be bodhisattva. One of my favorite quotes is from the DalaiLama.com, but it's an ancient poem. And I just wanted to give you the source. So if you go to DalaiLama.com/teachings/training-the-mind/generating the mind for enlightenment, you'll find it. But it goes, with a wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Enthused by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind for full awakening, for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. So that last part I find very inspiring. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. So what does it mean to make this vow? And how do we live up to it? You might be wondering why we make this vow in the first place. It sounds like a pretty huge thing to say. And sometimes we might wonder what benefit it has to make this vow. Why do we vow to save all beings? Why do we vow to help all beings awaken? So for me, what this means is that we are all one. We are all interconnected. There's no difference between any of us in a really significant way. We are all one being. And we wouldn't be here without this interdependence and this oneness. If you think about it, really that's our predominant experience in life. Sometimes it seems like that's not the case when there is so much violence, misery, disconnection, and just general awfulness going on in the world. How can we think that the basis of all existence is this oneness and this interdependence and this union. Well, without it, our world would just dissipate and fall apart. We are all held together just at the level of atoms, and in between atoms there are smaller units of matter, electrons, and even smaller units of atoms, or units of matter, where there's just nothing there, but there's something holding us all together. And so because we are all one, when one of us can go deeper in our practice, then that helps all beings. When we open to whatever difficulties we're having in our practice or within our mind, and we heal that, then it reduces everybody's burden. It helps everybody to heal. When one of us awakens, then the opening for all of us is more possible. The barrier against it is lower. When one of us awakens, all of us have greater potential for awakening. So what I find helpful about this aspect of the Bodhisattva vow is practicing gratitude. Gratitude for the practice, gratitude for Sangha, practicing with others, for all of the gifts that I receive all the time from life itself, just on a material level, clothing, food, education, a job, all those things that come from this oneness and this interdependence that's all of life. And then I also find it really inspiring knowing that as I go deeper in my practice, it helps others to go deeper too. Again, on a practical level, here we are in sesshin, so when one of us is having a hard time, there's this sense of collective deepening that happens in sesshin, and you can tune into that group power, and it can help you let go. It doesn't matter if you're on Zoom or in the Zendo, it's the same. And that being said, also, if I know somebody's having a hard time, because there's a sense of connection with all of us, if I go deeper, I know it helps the other person too. That's inspiring to me. Sometimes it's helpful to have a reason to practice. And it's one of my reasons. And there's some good research about why this can benefit everyone too. The more we focus on altruistic views, and when we engage in things to help others, we ourselves are much happier. We can become pretty depressed if we just focus on what we think we need or want. But when we are able to open outwards and offer what we can and open to the sense of interdependence, it brings a much greater happiness for everyone. And this practice in and of itself helps us to come to awakening as well, because in order to fully open, we have to be able to let go of our identity, our attachment to our identity, long enough to be able to see deeply enough into a place of freedom and clarity, where real wisdom and joy and compassion can arise. But by offering ourselves to others, by doing what we can to help all of life, it helps whittle away our attachment to what we feel like we need in each moment, or what we want, or ideas about how things should be. I worked in healthcare for a long time, and there's never a dull moment. That's number one. Number two is you just never know what's going to be needed. So you walk into any situation, hands open, ready to do whatever is needed. And if you have ideas about how it should go, or what somebody should be experiencing, or what they should need, never goes well. And so that's one example of how having an open mind and how that practice of letting go of our ideas about how things should be can help others and can help our practice as well. So there are a lot of different bodhisattvas in the world. It's not just a mythological expression. We are all bodhisattvas. We all have this deep vow within ourselves. It doesn't always seem as close to the surface as it could be, but many of us are acting in bodhisattvic ways all the time. And just sort of noticing that, noticing when others are doing something to help, noticing where something is needed, that general attitude I find really inspiring and helpful for my own practice, and I see it helping other people who also practice that way. In society, of course, we have lots of people helping others in many ways: caregivers, environmental workers, human rights workers, artists. On Jack Kornfield's website, there's another quote I found that kind of describes this type of bodhisattva action. He's quoting the Dalai Lama when he says, who's quoting the 6th century sage Shantideva, "May I be a guard for those who need protection, a guide for those on the path, a boat, a raft, a bridge for those who wish to cross the flood. May I be a lamp in the darkness." So there are many material and spiritual ways of practicing the Bodhisattva vow. And there's a deeper level too. It's not just material. We've talked about it to an extent already, but I just wanted to really focus on that level a little bit too. So let me think about it here. I've talked a little bit about how letting go and offering to others can really help open us up to awakening to deeper place. And the reason that that's so powerful is that you can have a direct experience of this oneness. You can have a direct experience of who we really are, which is we're not separate beings. And there is a place that we all can reach that is not a special place. It's just a very clear, direct experience of what is. When enough attachments are let go, there is nothing remaining except the sense of eternity, an eternal, abiding sense, with only a desire to serve. Mitra-roshi described his view of his life as wanting to be a chair, because he had seen so deeply that he recognized that that was what was left. It was to offer, to be there to help others. He was Mitra-roshi's guardian angel at Bukokuji, as I understand it. So he really did live that understanding in many ways, not just with Mitra-roshi. Mumon-roshi, Shodo Harada-roshi's teacher, also clearly lived from that place, and his final poem ended with, "As for liberating all beings, there's nothing left to do but let go everything in the whole universe." And so really that's the focus of our practice, and it can seem like a really huge, impossible task, but it's really not, because we're already living it. Every moment in sesshin, when we bring our mind back from feeling distracted, every time we send the out breath, maybe moving through some difficult emotions on the way, all of that work, whenever we let go, open to something difficult, let go again, open to something miraculous, let go again. And then in that way we liberate ourselves, and we liberate all beings, because there's not a single difference. There's no separation whatsoever between all of us. And so this is what I find inspiring. This is why I practice. And so I hope this was helpful in some way. And if not, I would love to talk about it. If anyone has any questions or comments, I'd love to chat. Well, maybe we should get back to sitting. Thanks for listening. We'll stop now and recite the 4 vows.